From villains disguised as other villains to supposedly friendly characters who turned heel at pivotal moments, antagonists who took the form of a friendly NPC, and everything in between, these big bads were all concealed mere inches from your face. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 video game villains hiding in plain sight.
Have you ever wanted to watch your favourite content whilst you're abroad and stay safe online? Well, we have an incredible deal for you. For just $2.50 a month, you can get Norton VPN, an easy-to-use VPN that won't slow you down, allows you to watch your favourite shows from around the world, and keeps your online activity safe and private, all with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Just scan the QR code on screen right now or use the link in the description to get Norton VPN for just $2.50 a month. Now, back to the video.
Number 10. Scott Shelby, Heavy Rain. The identity of the origami killer in Heavy Rain is an especially egregious example because the game doesn't even play fair about concealing its antagonist right in front of the player's face. At the end of the game, it's revealed that the killer is in fact one of Heavy Rain's playable characters, private investigator Scott Shelby. Now, the notion that you've been secretly playing the murderer yourself is an interesting one, albeit one that the game absolutely fumbles by not being straight about it. The player controls Shelby during a scene earlier in the game where the owner of an antiques store, Manfred, is murdered by the origami killer, seemingly making it impossible for Scott to be the culprit. But as we later learn when the twist is revealed, Scott's perspective has actually been an unreliable one, and the version of the antiques store scene that we played through earlier was one constructed in his own mind. Given that Heavy Rain's gameplay is implied to be objective, it felt like a cheat to many players, who never had a chance of figuring out the twist because director David Cage effectively moved the dramatic goalposts without telling them. Cheers. Number 9. Clayface, Batman Arkham City. In one of the most ingenious gaming bait and switches of the last decade, Batman Arkham City reveals near its climax that the healthier Joker that we've been interacting with for most of the game isn't actually the clown prince of crime at all. Rather, a very, very sick Joker who is suffering from blood poisoning due to ingesting the Titan formula in the previous game, Arkham Asylum, has enlisted shape-shifting villain Clayface to assume his identity and pose as a less sick version of himself. It comes as quite the surprise to even the Dark Knight, and when the real Joker finally emerges, he even gloats about the fact that he hid Clayface right in front of Batman, telling him, "So how do you keep a secret from the world's greatest detective? Well, do you know? You stick it right in front of him, right under his long pointy nose, and wait." Inquisitive players are able to figure out the twist early, however, by scanning the imposter in detective mode, where they'll see that he doesn't have a skeleton and therefore cannot be the real Joker. Number 8. Maya Brooks, Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC. Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC introduces players to Maya Brooks, a staff analyst in Systems Alliance Intelligence who warns Commander Shepard of an impending threat against their life, while being presented as a klutzy and frantic but ultimately well-meaning person. The story makes pains to build a fast bond between Brooks and Shepard after she's taken hostage and rescued by them. But as is revealed roughly halfway through Citadel's story, Brooks' noble persona and even her plummy British accent are actually a front. Brooks is actually an ex-Cerberus operative who's been working with Shepard's clone to steal his identity, and was responsible for setting up the ambush to try and kill Shepard, and also murdered Khan to cover her tracks. Oh, and when the chips are down, she even ends up turning on the Shepard clone. Finally, Brooks attempts to kill the Normandy's crew by sealing them in the Iridium vaults without oxygen, and once she's subsequently captured, it's up to the player to decide whether to kill her or cut her loose. Brooks had us all fooled with her appealing, perky persona and cute accent. Who could have predicted that she was actually an historically self-serving douchebag? Number 7. General Shepard, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. In what surely remains as one of the most shocking and defeating plot twists in the entire Call of Duty franchise, Modern Warfare 2 dropped the late-game bombshell that mustachioed badass General Shepard is actually the primary villain. Despite being presented as nothing less than a great man hell-bent on preventing World War III between Russia and the US, it's eventually revealed that Shepard had been secretly working to prolong the conflict, having organized the game's controversial airport massacre that first prompted Russia to declare war on America. Shepard wanted to take Makarov down less to avenge his fallen men from the first game than to cement himself as a national war hero, a psychotic goal to the extent that in one of the game's later levels, Loose Ends, he shoots Roach and Ghost dead and then sets their bodies on fire. grim. Players then take control of Soap for the rest of the game, and in one of the franchise's most satisfying moments to date, get to kill him by throwing a knife right into his eye. Shepard's betrayal was so traumatic for fans that it's been pretty tough to fully trust even the most heroic ally ever since. Number 6. Mitch Kana, South Park: The Fractured Butthole. The brilliant South Park: The Fractured Butthole takes the notion of a hidden villain to hilariously self-parodying extremes by quite literally placing them in plain sight. The game's ultimate antagonist is Mitch Connor, a hand puppet created by Eric Cartman by, well, literally just drawing a face on his hand. Despite the protests of his friends, Cartman insists that he has no control over Mitch, who possesses him in order to do his evil bidding. Though it's made abundantly clear from early on that Mitch is nothing more than Cartman's crudely drawn hand puppet, this basically lures players into a false sense of security, assuming that the joke will eventually be disposed of and the real villain will eventually show themselves. But no, Mitch really is the Fractured Butthole's ultimate baddie, plotting to cause enough chaos in South Park that he can unseat the current mayor and take the job for himself. The wacky final boss fight sees players battling not one, but two Mitch Connors, one from an alternate universe, after which Mitch is killed by his mother, which is another crude hand puppet that appears on Cartman's other hand. Number 5. Liquid Snake, Metal Gear Solid. Villain reveals don't get much more deliciously satisfying or surprising than this. In Metal Gear Solid, one of Solid Snake's codec contacts is his longtime ally Master Miller, who provides advice and moral support throughout his adventure. However, close to the end of the game, Miller reveals that he's not actually Miller at all, but in fact the game's primary antagonist, Snake's air quotes brother, Liquid Snake. Liquid has effectively been posing as Miller in an attempt to trick Snake into helping activate bipedal nuclear launcher Metal Gear Rex, which he consequently relays to Snake with his gloriously hammy relish over the codec. As for the real Miller, well, Colonel Campbell informs Snake that his body has been discovered at his home, having been killed at least 3 days earlier as part of Liquid's plan to assume his identity. Talk about a plot twist that nobody saw coming. It's not even like Miller looked that much different to Liquid, but the act was so convincing that he was able to play Snake and us like a damn fiddle. Number 4. Finn, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Spider-Man Miles Morales' Tinkerer is an interesting example because the supervillain's identity was hidden in plain sight through the sheer virtue of obviousness. In the comics, the Tinkerer is the villainous alter ego of Phineas Mason, and so when it was revealed that one of this game's supporting characters was Miles' friend Finn Mason, it seemed like players were being set up for a bait-and-switch twist. Many fans understandably assumed that Finn was inserted into the game as a misdirect, and that the Tinkerer's identity would be swapped out for somebody else. But alas, at the end of the game's first act, we learned that Finn is indeed the Tinkerer. The game is sensible to get the reveal out of the way just a few hours into its story, because if this had been a late game twist, well, it would have gone down like a lead balloon. And yet, Finn being the Tinkerer was still somehow surprising on its own, simply because so many players had convinced themselves that it was too damn obvious to be true. Fans basically played themselves on this one. Number 3. Mark Jefferson, Life is Strange. If a character seems a little too nice, it's usually too good to be true, as was confirmed by the first season of Life is Strange. At the end of the game, it's revealed that, rather than any of the obvious suspects, it's Blackwell Academy's hip photographer teacher Mark Jefferson that is actually responsible for Rachel Amber's death. Despite presenting himself as a cool yet caring individual, we later learn that Jefferson has been drugging and kidnapping young girls and photographing them in order to capture, as he puts it, their innocence. Though Jefferson claims it was actually his young ally Nathan Prescott who accidentally killed Rachel with a drug overdose, it was Jefferson's plan to kidnap her. Jefferson subsequently killed Nathan for his mistake and then attempts to kill both Chloe and Max, but not before taking some creepy ass photos. Ultimately, Jefferson is brought to justice at the game's end, but let's face it, none of us predicted that the supportive photography teacher introduced at the start of the game was going to be the end big bad. Number 2. Mother Miranda, Resident Evil Village. The Resident Evil franchise just loves its sneaky villain reveals, and Resident Evil Village served up quite the amusing one. Throughout the game, you'll come across an extremely old woman who speaks cryptically to Ethan about both his own predicament and the role of the villainous cult leader, Mother Miranda. However, it's revealed following the battle with Heisenberg that this old woman isn't so much a follower of Miranda as Miranda herself, using her mold infection to change her appearance into an elderly woman who can spy on the local villagers without attracting suspicion. Given that the old woman has been guiding the player throughout the game, it made for quite the surprise that this eccentric yet seemingly harmless individual was the main antagonist all along. While it was reasonable to expect some sort of payoff with the old lady, few could have anticipated that she would literally be the game's big bad hanging out right in front of your face the entire time. And number 1, Darth Revan, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. There's concealing the villain under the guise of a support character, and then there's concealing the villain as the freaking playable character themselves. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic's ending delivers an all-timer plot twist by revealing that Darth Revan, the legendary Sith Lord, is none other than the very person you've been controlling for the entire game. Knights of the Old Republic is glaring proof that amnesia is a plot point that should always make you suspicious. The player's character is an amnesiac who wakes up on board a Republic ship, but the truth is that as Revan, they were actually betrayed by their Sith apprentice Malak and left for dead prior to the events of the game. The Jedi Council then took custody of Revan and wiped their mind, dovetailing into the start of the game where the player assumes control of them as a blank slate. Ultimately, it's up to the player whether they decide to revert Revan back to their previous dark side ways or gravitate towards the light. But never before or since has a video game so ingeniously dangled the overarching antagonist right in front of the player's face. It is inevitably one of those brilliant plot twists that you can really only get away with once.
Number 10, Atlas, BioShock. BioShock's Rapture is one of the most iconic failed utopias in gaming history, with players forced to battle all manner of genetically modified and deformed villains. It's a game that doesn't offer many friends, which makes the reveal that one of your chief allies is actually a villain stand out as an especially gut-punching blow. Throughout BioShock, Atlas is presented as Andrew Ryan's biggest opponent and aids players in getting to him. It's only when players get in front of Ryan that he reveals Atlas's true identity. After hinting that Atlas's "would you kindly" catchphrase is a psychic command to make players do his bidding, Ryan is killed by players. Atlas then comes on the radio to tell him that his real name is Frank Fontaine, and he's indeed been manipulating you this entire time. With his rival now disposed of, Fontaine is free to run Rapture. Charismatic, deceitful, and with a master plan of domination and destruction, yeah, maybe we should have seen it coming. Number 9, Maria, Silent Hill 2. Since we're talking about video games where there aren't too many friendly characters waiting for players, Silent Hill 2 is an experience filled with grotesque monsters designed to push James Sunderland's psychological terror to its absolute limits. It makes the brief moments of respite that he and the players get with the seemingly friendly Maria all the sweeter. Sadly though, all is not as it first seems here. Maria and James spend their time in the foggy Silent Hill together, keeping each other company and providing a dose of sanity as things spiral out of control. Players do their best to keep her out of harm's way. However, when James is forced to watch Maria being repeatedly killed, it becomes clear there's something sinister behind this character. It turns out Maria is a nightmare conjured up by the town to torment James. Designed to closely mirror the appearance of his wife, Maria's sinister reveal manages to stand out as a far more chilling development than any of Silent Hill's more gruesome baddies could match up to. Number 8, Clayface, Batman Arkham City. Players are forced to confront and battle Joker inside the Monarch Theatre in the ending of Batman Arkham City. Joker, who'd practically been at death's door previously, appears to be completely cured of the Titan poisoning, only to reveal that the healthy Joker isn't Batman's biggest rival, but rather Clayface, a villain capable of impersonating any living organism. It's revealed that Clayface has been working as one of Joker's allies throughout the entire game, and actually pulled off a number of the sequences players see in game, including shutting down Black Mask's operations and opening up the Sionis steel mill for Joker and his goons to use. It's a neat little hoodwink, and one that surely tricked a few players during their first playthrough, but it can actually be spoiled way earlier on. If players scan the fake Joker during their fight using detective mode, they'll see that he's missing a skeletal structure. Every other person has one, including the real Joker, so this is Rocksteady's way of teasing the truth for eagle-eyed players. Number 7, Edelgard von Hresvelg, Fire Emblem 3 Houses. This entry may be a tad more controversial than the others depending on your perspective. Make no mistake, Edelgard is definitely an enigmatic personality whose characteristics and motivations are certainly well written. We're just not sold on her ends justifying the means as a cop-out for some exceptionally brutal acts. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a game split into two parts, with the second half chronicling the conflict that engulfs Fodlan, while the first explores the mysterious identity of the Flame Emperor. All three leaders of the Great Houses are touted as potential suspects, but Edelgard von Hresvelg would have been the least likely on the list. Shown around Garreg Mach Monastery as a friendly NPC and party member, the leader of the Black Eagles is eventually revealed to be the game's chief villain in a shocking revelation. Again, she's given plenty of reasons for being a sympathetic villain and potentially even a grey hero if players decide to stick by her side. In order to stick by her side, you'd want to have chosen the Black Eagles at the beginning, and then when given the choice to go with Edelgard or the Church, you would obviously go with Edelgard. Personally, I went with the Church, which is pretty darn unpopular, but I don't know. I thought Edelgard was a bad guy. As nuanced as she is, she's still a tyrannical ruler who managed to pull the wool over plenty of players during their first playthrough, so whether you like her or not, she definitely qualifies for the list. Number 6. The Cannibals of Markarth, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls Daedric god Namira is all about the disgust and horror that comes from mortals, and takes a keen interest in acts like the consumption of human flesh. Through her Daedric quest, players can uncover a small cult of followers who are happily engaging in cannibalism. Lisbeth Banning and Hogni Redarm are all citizens of Markarth that you can interact with, purchase things from, and sell things to, and all of them are cannibals that you'll find at Namira's shrine. Markarth is a city riddled with intrigue and scheming, where villains are constantly walking the streets under the nose of the player. However, there's something especially disturbing about the glee these cannibals take in going about their daily duties, doing Namira's work, all while the surrounding city is none the wiser. Special shout out to Hogni, the enthusiastic butcher whose fascination with blood and meat clearly disgusts most of Markarth. It's implied that the meat he's selling is in fact human flesh, which just paints this whole cult in an even more gruesome light. Somehow even more gruesome than the layout of Markarth. I hate Markarth, I'm sorry. Number 5. Tohru Adachi, Persona 4. Atlas's Persona 4 centers around a series of supernatural-themed murders that a player needs to solve set across a sleepy Japanese village. Players and the group of high school friends attempt to link the supernatural in the shadow world, whilst their in-game uncle attempts to make sense of the crimes as a detective, along with his partner Tohru Adachi in the real world. From the outset, Adachi's presented as being the archetypal, bumbling right-hand man. He constantly blurts out sensitive information and demonstrates how wanting his detective skills are in the field. However, these will serve as a front for Adachi's true nature. It's revealed that in fact he is the nihilistic and ambitious supervillain behind the string of murders which kickstart the events of the game. Players can fail to identify Adachi as the murderer, which leads to the ultimate destruction of humanity. Not recommended if you want the good ending. But if he's caught, he freely explains how he'd always felt constrained by the real world, giving into violent aspects of his shadow self and engaging in Izanami's murderous game across Inaba. Number 4. G-Man, Half-Life. The G-Man is the overarching villain of the Half-Life series and is infamous for his interdimensional abilities and dapper array of suits. He's best known for his more highbrow appearances in Half-Life 2. However, what some players might not have realized upon playing the series the first time around is that his influence was introduced a lot earlier than that. In the original Half-Life, eagle-eyed players might have been able to spot a strange, sticky man in a suit appearing in random spots throughout the game. Some of these cameos are so quick, if you blinked at the wrong moment, you'd miss them, but he is always there. Few people at the time could have realized how big of a role that particular man would go on to play, and even today there are plenty of players who either miss G-Man's hidden cameos or fail to realize that's who they're seeing. Nevertheless, it goes to show how far back G-Man's influence stretches and the extent of his omniscience. Number 3. Mualim, Assassin's Creed. The original Assassin's Creed saw players taking control of Altair, a skilled assassin who's sent to kill high-profile targets across the Holy Land during the Third Crusade. The one dishing out the orders is his mentor Mualim, the leader of the assassins. Mualim is constantly berating Altair for his brashness and dealing lessons in patience, humility, and understanding. All of this makes the final reveal that Mualim has been the big bad puppet master behind the events of the game that much more shocking. Having secretly been working alongside the Knights Templar, Mualim becomes ensnared by the power of the Peace of Eden. He uses Altair as a means of eliminating his 9 collaborators and ultimately keeping the power the artifact possesses all to himself. Hoodwinks, unreliable narrators, and betrayals are something the Assassin's Creed series came to embrace in later entries, but there's still no beating the one that kicked them all off. Number 2. Big Smoke, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Big Smoke and Dan Ryder's betrayal in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is one of the most iconic in video game history. The pair were after money, power, respect, and authority, and decided to sell out Grove Street in favor of siding with the Ballers. It was a betrayal that claimed the life of CJ's mother and nearly the life of his brother during the campaign. Given his charisma and larger-than-life personality, it's a shocking and sad betrayal, but also one that had been hiding under the noses of players throughout their time on Grove Street. Right from the off, Ballers don't shoot at Smoke or at Ryder when players are thrown into the chaos of San Andreas. He doesn't attend the funeral of CJ's mother, and even his introduction where he's shown with a baseball bat mistaking CJ for an intruder is a facade for his true intentions, hiding out at the Johnson household waiting for Sweet to take him out. Furthermore, his constant evasion, changes in conversation, and the presence of Crash constantly overhanging make him a character whose intentions were definitely far more surface level than what players would have liked to believe. Number 1. Solas, Dragon Age Inquisition. There are of course spoilers ahead, so beware. Dragon Age Inquisition is one of those games that absolutely revels in hiding the true villain's identity from you the entire time. For the most part, Curfeus is painted as the biggest baddie in the game, with the biggest threat to the world, but in reality, this ancient darkspawn is merely a puppet for Inquisition's true villain, hidden just below the nose of the players. Fen'Harel, the elven god Dreadwolf, is the game's true villain and is secretly hidden by taking the form of Solas. Solas joins the Inquisition and can be one of the most dependable mages in the game, and is even a romantic option for players if those ears are the kind of things that get you going. But make no mistake, Solas is hell-bent on destroying the Veil and restoring his own elven kind to glory, causing irreparable chaos in the process. Depending on the relationship players have with Solas, his reaction to revealing his true identity will vary, either showing next to no guilt or expressing genuine remorse for his actions. Either way, Inquisition's story concludes with him reveling in his role as a trickster, and walking off with even more power in his hands.